Hi everyone, this is Anna Peters, and today I've got somebody right next to me, and his name is Tom Grimshaw. And I'll tell you the little story about Tom before I introduce Tom to speak. Tom is an absolute legend because Tom created the most incredible health bars, the most natural with the most ingredients I've ever seen in a health bar, and all the ingredients are good for you. And I came across Tom, I met Tom through a mutual friend, and he's created a brand called Healthylicious. I've had the privilege of trying his bars, and I'll tell you the story about it in a minute. We share a mutual friend by the name of Mary Sentle. And so thank you, Mary, for introducing me to Tom. And Tom's going to tell us the story behind how the Healthylicious brand and the Healthylicious bars were developed. What was the inspiration behind it? Please welcome Tom. Tom, how are you?
Sensational. Thank you for that lovely introduction.
You're welcome. You're the only person I know in the health industry that has created something. There's a few other people, but the passion behind it and the story of why you created the bars was really special. And I know all of the ingredients and how good they are. And there's a lot of ingredients in a bar. We're going to talk about some of the health bars and my experience. So I would like the viewers to know. And of course, I'll just tell everyone my favorite is the raspberry slice. But Tom, tell us the story about what inspired you to create these amazing health bars, that don't have preservatives. You put natural things like honey and really expensive ingredients that you don't see when you buy bars over the counter. So please tell us the story. What made you want to start these beautiful health bars?
My daughter was working fairly long hours back in 2008. The global financial crisis hit, for those of you who are old enough to remember it. And prospects were staying away from my software business in droves. So I had time on my hands. And I heard that my daughter was going through a vegan stage. And she would, if they were offered a lamb stew for dinner, she'd go buy a Mars bar. I thought, oh no, goodness gracious me, I could do better than that. Very conceited of me because I wasn't even the cook. So I got in the kitchen and I did something any of your viewers could do. I put together some cashews, macadamias, sultanas, apricots, bit of cinnamon and nutmeg for some flavor. What do you call it? Maca powder, which is South American root vegetable for those who don't know it. It's what they call an adaptogen.
Adaptogen, brilliant adaptogen, yes.
Exactly. If you've got too much of a hormone, it'll bring it down. If you've got too little, it'll bring it up. So I put some of that in, some cacao powder that they make chocolate from, and I bound it together with honey and tahini. And all of a sudden, I'm making 6 kilos of this thing each weekend because their friends are getting more energy out of it than their normal diet. I go, WTF? What the heck is a software developer doing, for goodness sake, out nourishing the professionals? Yeah. So I go, I'll find out. So I go online and I go into Google and I search for health benefits of ingredient name. Blew me away. The mad scientist in me bubbles to the surface. I think, if I could do that much good with what I had together in the cupboard, what could I do if I really tried? So I signed up for 20 health newsletters. And the more I read, the more ingredients I came across. I thought, oh, I'll have one of those. And so it went from a 12 ingredient bar to a 40 ingredient bar to a 60 ingredient bar, then to 100, then to 150. And for a while, I peaked out at 196. So I used to say to the girls I met at the Mind, Body, Spirit Expo, it would be insane to put 200 ingredients in a bar. So I stopped at 196 and they'd laugh at me. And then I'd say, but I can't even say that anymore because I found some more good ingredients. So I think the last batch had 236 ingredients in it.
My goodness me.
And people say, my goodness me, why do you put so many ingredients in a bar? And I hark back to an appointment I had with a doctor back in 1992 who said, get as wide a range of foods into you as you possibly can. And I was insufficiently curious at the time to ask why. But when I started researching the health benefits of each of these foods I was putting in, what blew me away was how diverse nature is. Like every different nut has a different health benefit on the body. Every different dried fruit has a different health benefit on the body, and so on and so on and so on and so forth. Now, you know, when you read the back of a packet on a food item, it's got the gross levels of nutrients, like the fats, the carbohydrates, the protein, the sugar, things like that.
That's right.
I call those max nutrients. And then you've got the micronutrients, which is like your vitamins and minerals.
That's right.
But you've got another layer under there called phytonutrients.
Which is the key, yes. Which is
there's 40,000 of the blessed things.
And that's right. And look, and people are becoming more and more aware of how important phytonutrients are to our system. But even, you know, you mentioned cacao. Some people don't even know that when you buy hot chocolate, it's not the hot chocolate that you buy that's got dairy and sugar added to it. This is 100% cacao. I mean, it's an incredible nutrient and brilliant for our happy hormones, which is very important these days. But I mean, I've looked at all of your ingredients and I think it's just extraordinary what you've done. And please continue, please continue.
I think probably why I've done what I've done, it occurred to me several years ago. I recalled something my father said to me when I was 15 and working for him as a stamp dealer. He said, Grimshaw, he said, you've got champagne tastes and a beer budget. And the spots on the leopard haven't changed ever since. If I'm going to be doing something, I mean, I'm doing something, you know, divorced from Healthilicious and personal development. And it's quite an extensive amount of effort I'm putting in. And my daughter was telling one of her friends this, and she said, geez, that's pretty intense. And my daughter said, well, you know, my dad, he never does anything half-assed. And that's the reputation I've apparently accumulated.
And you have done this, and I know how, you know, you go to the Mind Body Health festivals every year. You're there without fail. I mean, I've got people who want to see this video because they are interested in your health bars, which is the reason why, you know, you called me and you said, Anna, how can I help you? And I thought, oh my goodness, hardly anybody ever says that to me. And I thought, and which was so refreshing. And I thought, well, immediately for me, that says, well, what can I do for you? And I thought, wow, it's not just about what can I do for you, but to everybody listening and everybody that will see this recording, to actually know that there is a much better health bar out there, health version. And I want to talk about the diverse. You talked about the diverse ingredients. For those of you who don't know, that I've been studying genetics the last 10 years and will continue to study as we get more and more science, you know, is, you know, the what we have got access to these days is quite phenomenal. But for those of you who don't know, that I do microbiome testing with the doctors that I work with. And the microbiome test is a fecal test, which we test basically the bacteria of what is inside of the gut. And one of the things that we look at is how diverse the microbiome is. And the more diverse it is, the healthier you are. And we can also have a look at, you know, if there's any baddies in there, bad bacteria that shouldn't be in there, if they've overexpanded. We know how to bring them back in check and where they should be, or get rid of them totally if they shouldn't be there at all. Then we look at all the bacteria and if they're in check, in balance. So that's the technology we have access to today. But the biggest thing that we see when we see an imbalance is we go back to the diet. And having a diverse microbiome comes from having great phytonutrients and great nutrients, great vitamins and minerals, and having a diverse range so that your microbiome becomes the bacteria, because we are basically a walking bacteria, is very strong. And that's how we stay healthy, because when things come in right from here, the bacteria is in the mouth. So your first defense is right there. So if you've got good bacteria and you're eating well and eating healthy, then it goes down in there, and whatever comes in, it can deal with it. And if you don't have enough good bacteria in there, and that comes from having a very healthy diet. And I love the brand and the name that you created, which is Healthilicious. And I just want to tell the viewers, it's health and then E and then licious, LICIOUS.com.au, correct?
Yes.
So for those of you, and you've got not just one bar, but you've got a whole diverse range of bars. And I want to tell the viewers about my experience, because this is really going to knock out some of the health practitioners as well listening, and how when I met you in the early days and I was trialing your bars, and there was the one bar, which was the green bar. Do you remember that, Tom? The one that and you said to me, Anna, what did you think of my bars? I said, well, I absolutely love the raspberry slice, and I still love the raspberry slice. However, and you said to me, what did you think of the green bar? And I thought, well, actually, Tom, that was about the only one that I didn't quite really like. And you said, well, that's interesting, Anna, because my herbalist said to me that for people who actually don't like that, they may have a problem with candida. And I thought, interesting, because that didn't have any dried fruit in it, or it was not as sweet as the other ones from the natural sweetness, right, that comes from some of the ingredients. And it was interesting because at the time, and I'm going back, there was a couple of tests that I still need to do. We were still looking for some things that were not quite right. And one of the symptoms was that I had hypoglycemia. So, you know, and the only way I knew that was my husband spotted it, and he said, Anna, he said, you know, if you don't eat at a certain time, you're absolutely going, I've got to eat. And he says, well, can't you wait? And I said, no, I can't. I've got to eat right now. And I've got to have, you know, I'm feeling lightheaded. And so there was this, you know, spike going up and down, and that was interesting. So that my husband alerted it to me, then you alerted it to me, and I thought, candida, symptoms of candida, hypoglycemia. And I thought, interesting, because the candida, which is obviously I had too much candida, and I traced that back from a child because I had an ear infection very young. So I was hammered with antibiotics as a child, which set up a very bad microbiome for me. I had all those, and then of course my allergies would have been a lot worse because I didn't have, the lining was damaged, the microbiome was damaged, and then that sets up a problem in the gut. And so from that can grow candida, can become what we call overexpanded. And that means the candida lives off sugar. And when I was in the early days of my relationship, going back 12 years ago, I used to have grapes or strawberries by my bed in the morning. So when I woke up, that was what I would put, because the candida was saying, I want that. So when you alerted me and you said, my herbalist said, if you don't like the taste of that, you could have candida, I went, oh my goodness me, how did that slip? And that was the beginning of that beautiful relationship with the herbalist, and me learning a lot more about that. And God bless her, she helped me, and we got rid of the candida. And from that day on, the hypoglycemia never came back.
Wow.
And my blood sugars have, you know, it hasn't caused any other problems. So you can understand that once that candida it was systemic at that point. And when we tested the blood, we could see in the live blood analysis and the dried blood analysis how the blood was, and it was all clogged up and everything. So straight after the herbal remedies and everything that I went on, the blood was clear. No more sugar cravings. I could go without food for long periods of time, no problem. I was basically, and it was just night and day, and the way it was controlling the moods, even the candida. So what you did in that moment for me changed my life, and I probably have never told you this, but the herbalist knows. But this is
awesome.
what happened, and I have been able to help so many people after that. So our relationship goes back. You know, we're going back about 12 years, maybe longer. So I want to say thank you, because that personally helped me. So I think that for people watching, they should absolutely go on. But tell us about some of your bars so that people know when they go onto the healthylicious.com.au site. You know, you've got your email address. They can place their orders through there, and you can deliver all throughout Australia, correct?
Correct.
Absolutely brilliant. So tell me.
Your trouble, young lady, is that you have triggered about 75 thoughts as you were saying what you just said.
Good.
And I've got I must be getting female in my old age, because I've got about 16 threads running through my head about where to start. So the first one is why. And I guess the bottom line is that my purpose in life is to understand. My secondary purpose is to raise others to a higher level of awareness. And I often say to Mind, Body, Spirit, you can't rise to a high level of awareness when your attention is being dragged down to a sick or malnourished body. Your attention, as you said, is there.
Yes.
So if you like, my purpose with Healthilicious is to provide such a broad range of nourishment in as condensed a space, a package as I possibly can, so that if you're suffering from a vitamin or mineral or a phytonutrient deficiency, chances are I've got something in there that's going to rectify that deficiency. I've got probiotics in there. I've got 72 minerals and fulvic acid from a mine in the Mississippi.
Brilliant.
Things that cost me several $100s a kilo that people who are doing it for commercial reasons wouldn't even consider.
No, they wouldn't.
You've heard the old saying, there's a fine line between genius and insanity. I think I have a foot in both camps. It's probably commercial insanity, but nutritional genius.
Yes, because I mean, your focus is, you're passionate about helping, and it's the commercial side hasn't, that's a different beast. If we're talking about
totally.
You're talking about integrity of health here, and
Exactly.
And it's all about integrity, and I believe that not enough people know about healthylicious.com.au. and I think that the whole of Australia needs to get behind this and order it for their children. That what you've done and what you've put in and the effort and what you've ordered, because I remember seeing it coming to where you make it, and I saw it all, and I thought, wow, this is unbelievable. We're never going to see anything with so much nutrition over the counter, because people are so focused on the profits to be operating. And maybe one day it will go to that commercial level, but I know that you will keep the integrity, Tom. And
I mean, why do anything else? Anybody can make something as cheap as oats and sugar.
Well, that's right.
And most of them do.
Exactly. So, the world is becoming more educated now. We're more focused because we know that if we haven't got our health, we just don't have anything at all, really.
That's right.
And you need a quality of life. The material stuff, might be important to us in our early 20s, and pretty much that's about it, really. And you get a little bit of knowledge behind you, and you think, or if you've lost your health and you get it back, you realize the importance of the quality of life, and just being able to be pain-free and walk out the door and be able to smile and be happy and say hello to your neighbor and have that beautiful feeling comes from having good nutrition. And if you don't have that, you feel down.
Exactly.
And
I find it fascinating how quickly the body responds. I have a wonderful client called Glenn I met at the Camden show about 12 years ago. He's an engineer, and he's been buying bars and powders from me ever since you saw him first. And he said to me one day, he said, I can tell how healthy I've been eating during the day by how your nutrition powder tastes of a night. I said, get out of here, Glenn. He said, no, it's true. He said, if I've had a good day at work and I've been eating well, I'll have your greens powder of a night. It's all fine. He said, if I've been out on Sunday with the family, I've had some cake and a bit of this and a bit of that. He said, I'll have your greens powder of a night. I go, oh, that's a bit on the strong side. And that was the first time that we became aware of how quickly the body responds in terms of taste to what your gut flora, your gut bacteria balance is.
Absolutely.
And the reason that green bar, that's the nutrition booster bar for anybody who wants to know the name of it.
Yes.
Rhonda was using it as a testing tool, is number one, it's cheaper than the blood test.
Well, absolutely. And what a great way to have a bar and to go, well, I don't like the taste of it. It's actually not you not liking the taste of it, because I actually enjoyed the taste of it now. I remember trying it again after we got rid of the candida, and I know that completely disappeared. It was the candida that was saying, because it didn't like the flavor, it just wanted sugar. And so the nutrition booster bar, and my husband loves them. So they're not just for girlies. They're actually across the board.
And you asked me why I have a range.
Yes.
Well, each time I created a new bar with more ingredients, it became one step removed from the first bar, which I think about 98% of people like the flavor of. So the nutrition booster bar that was the testing ground for nutritional candida overgrowth or a yeast overgrowth, candida overgrowth or hormone imbalance was what Rhonda said.
Yes, yes.
So that's because of the chlorella and the spirulina and a few other things like that. And each time I created a new bar with the additional spices and other ingredients, the taste got stronger.
Yes.
And, you know, the ancient Greeks might have known it 2,000 years ago, bitter on the tongue, sweet on the belly.
Yes.
But of course, as a society, we're 180 degrees in the wrong direction from that.
Absolutely. Well, absolutely.
So that's why I keep the 14 different bars in my range. Now, I don't have them all in stock at the moment because not being able to do a mind, body, spirit for the last couple of years,
yes, of course.
My turnover hasn't gone skyward.
Yes, I understand. I understand totally. And everybody would understand. I mean, everybody's been, has gone through, this is a world global event that's happened and it's affected everybody.
But can I share something while I think of it? Every one of the ingredients for every one of my products is on my website. So you've got some of the people who will watch this who have more time than money, and you'll have some people who have more money than time. If you've got more time than money, you can go to my website, you can have a look at all the ingredients and say, well, look, I've got a third of those in my cupboard. Let me put some more of those into my diet. I'll widen the range of nutrients I'm getting in the body without having to pay Tom to make it, which I'm after the result. The result is a healthier, brighter, more aware you.
Absolutely.
And if you need me to make it, I'm happy to make it. If you want to, steal my ingredient list, by all means, feel free. You don't need to pay me for it.
No, but you make a beautiful. You make beautiful bars. But keep going because I want to mention. I don't want to forget either about what I'm about to say. But you keep going.
Okay. Keep that down. So there's a Dr. Thompson who wrote a book called The Calcium Lie 2.
Oh.
And he said that every single patient who comes to see him is suffering from a mineral deficiency. He said most of them think they're getting this and that ailment because it's their genes. Their parents had this or that ailment. They've got this or that ailment. Their kids will probably have this or that ailment. He said it's not true. He said genes only account for 5% of it. He said the average person only eats about 20 different foods. And they're the same 20 different foods that your parents ate. Now, if your parents ate 20 different foods that resulted in nutritional deficiencies that caused them to have these ailments, and you eat the same 20 foods that result in the same nutritional deficiencies that give you the same ailments.
That's right.
It's a pretty easy
You are what you eat. We've known about that for a long time.
Exactly.
And because we know that there's a deficiency in the soil, which we spoke about, the herbalist was very clear about, and people that are growing things now are quite aware. I mean, we lack a lot of things from the soil to begin with.
Yep.
So we've got to put them back in. And also because of the damages over the years, with certain things that have caused gut problems, people may need to have an allergy test if they feel they already have a problem there and they want to be more specific. You can do a food allergy test. Lots of labs do it in Australia. You can speak to health practitioners or myself, or go to apwellness.com. and you can find, we can organise a health appointment for you and get you an allergy test if you think you have a problem, or if you haven't already done it and haven't found out. But if you have and you know what the allergies are, then Tom can make something specifically for you. And that is the most incredible thing. I mean, it's really hard to get good vegan bars to begin with. Out there, and if you've got an egg allergy like I do, and bananas and other things, which is a shame because I really love and miss my bananas, but anyway. So just to mention that Tom can cater just for you and your family. So and that's a rarity, and we've got him locally. He's in Australia and he's making them in Australia, and we need to support that right now.
Yes, and what the most common benefit that I find out of getting a very broad range of nutrients in the body. I'll tell you a story. I was in America recently, and there was a gentleman walking up the stairs ahead of me very slowly. Like I turned 70 halfway through last year, and I still go upstairs two at a time. And he was going up, half a step at a time. So I said when we got to the stairs, I said, "Do you mind if I ask why you're moving so slowly?" He said, "It's the medication that I'm on." Turns out he's on prostate cancer and he's got some medication for that. He said, "Zaps my energy."
Oh my
I said, "Do you mind if I get you to try something?" He said, "What?" So I gave him a dose of my nutrition powder.
fantastic.
And he looked at it, and it's 10 grams of, like a greens mix, like a super greens mix, only twice as many greens in it. And I said, within 5 minutes, any mental fog will disappear. Within about 20 minutes, you should feel your energy level come up. And it's not the pump and dump you get from sugar. Your energy will stay up for about
Stay up.
5 hours.
That's right.
So he sent me a beautiful email the next day and said, "That was absolutely amazing." He said, "My speed has tripled. My family have seen what's done for me. I need to get 6 tubs of your powder because my family all wants some." And I just got another email from him. I've been home for about a month. He said, "My family have all taken it." And he said, again, instant fog disappeared. He said, "I don't know how you knew this had happened." You talk to enough people, you get told, right?
Well, intuition comes into play at some point, but I think that practitioners who are watching now, you could actually have Tom create certain formulas even for you in a powdered form so that you can supply it to your clients. I mean, I think that's also a great, and they can even put their own label on it if they want to, right, Tom?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that's really important to get this out in every way. And health practitioners actually, they already have access to their suppliers. But Tom, I know that you have a great formulations, and I think that it would be great if you moved in that direction a little bit. I think practitioners would really appreciate it.
I'm sure they would. I went round to just to give you an example of some of the things that I've done. I went to see a mate of mine one day. I said, "How's it going?" He said, "Oh, pretty good, except the blood pressure's a bit high." I said, "What is it?" He said, 208 over 110. I said, "Mate, that's lethal material."
Lethal.
He said, "Yeah, I know." So I went online and told him not to sleep too long and reduce the salt, and which happens to be a furphy, but we won't go there,
Yes.
and so on and so forth. So then I came home and I thought, I've got 300 ingredients that I stock. I wonder what of those have a reputed or proven effect to help regulate blood pressure.
There's a lot of studies that are out there that we can research, and that's what I'm doing all the time. As we find out new things, we have to research, and the information is out there when you look. That's right.
Exactly. You again, the little snippets of information are coming off. There's a wonderful thing in research. You don't find what you don't look for.
That's right. Ask and you well, what is it? Search and you what is the word? I mean, ask and you shall receive. It might come in a download, and you get the penny drops, and you go, "Wow, the light bulb just went off," and I need to research that. But it's there. If you
Absolutely.
don't look for it, you're not going to find it. That's exactly right.
Yes.
Go on, Tom.
And the other thing, how the powder came about was that I said to my son-in-law one day, he's a big 6'3" South African guy. He married my daughter. And I said to him, I said, "Renee, I said, you're not eating one of my bars every day, and they're the healthiest food on the planet. Why not?" He said, "I don't eat a food bar." I thought, So out of my spreadsheet, I took the seeds, the nuts, the fruit, and the binding agents, and I made a nutrition powder. Got about 200 ingredients in it. He and my daughter were having it for a couple of years. And then my daughter rings me up one day. She says, "Dad," and you know you're in trouble when your daughter says that. You've probably used that line yourself on your dad. She said, "We've been having your powder for a couple of years. No colds, no flu, no nothing. We're all really healthy. Trouble is, it's got a lot of anti-cancer compounds in it." I said, "Yeah, by design. That's a bullet I want to dodge." She said, "Well, that's all very well for you, but we're thinking about having a third grandkid. And they're contraindicated if you're pregnant," because she said, patting her belly, "That's a growth you want to keep."
Yes.
I said, "Okay." She said, "I tell you what, how about I tell you what to take out and you make it for me, a mother's blend.
Oh, brilliant.
Like, how am I going to say no, right?
Absolutely.
So she did, and I did.
Yeah.
And she had the mother's blend. A couple of months later, she's pregnant. And at 8 months, the midwife said to her, "What are you doing?" Teal
It's
said,
growing too fast.
"Why do you ask?"
It's really growing.
And the midwife said, "Because every one of these tests, you line ball. If it's supposed to be between 4 and 6, you're 5 on everything." Teal said, "Just having my dad's greens powder."
Brilliant.
And she sailed through the pregnancy without a day of morning sickness.
Brilliant. Yeah, and that's how you know. That's actually how you know when you've got all the nutrients that you need. I know this. I've experienced it, and so I know. But I think that this is really key information for people, because they don't actually understand. A lot of people, a lot of women do suffer a lot of serious morning sickness, and that is a lack of nutrients.
Exactly.
That is because of the lack of nutrients.
The proof of the pudding is in the eating. So every girl that my daughter knows who gets pregnant, she says, "Get into my dad's powder." Within 2 days max, they lose their morning sickness.
Yeah, it's
Now,
absolutely.
one of the friends, she got a little bit sick again later in the day. I said, "Obviously, you need more." So she has a morning dose and a lunchtime dose. That's the only one for whom one dose wasn't adequate. Obviously, she had a greater deficiency. But that's, I think.
And the processing, her genetic processing might be a little bit delayed, and so she might need a double dose. Yeah.
Yep. One of the things that I say at the Mind Body Spirit show, when I'm ever talking to a youngster, I say, do yourself a little favor. Go and talk to your parents, your aunts, uncles, find out what degenerative diseases they're suffering from, and ask them what dietary or lifestyle changes, in hindsight, do you reckon you should have made to avoid those degenerative diseases? And then incorporate those routines into your lifestyle. That's why you're going to dodge those bullets.
Well, prevention, and this is what I'm all about, is better than cure. Of course, we need our medical professionals because when we get into trouble, we suddenly get into trouble, we break a leg or an arm and we need an operation for whatever reason. We certainly need them. But when it comes to nutrition, you've got to go looking in the right area. And you're better off preventing yourself from getting to that point of having a problem by proper nutrition and avoiding all of those issues. I mean, when you go into hospital, the first thing that the dietitian will give the patient is macro and micronutrients. They don't get phytonutrients, but they get their macro and micro, which is still not enough. So, I mean, that's what they give people because they're trying to rebuild them, right? They're trying to repair them. So,
you ready for a laugh on that subject?
Yes.
So I'm on Twitter the other day and I see a post from a doctor who said, "My mother was a dietitian. She did everything right. We had margarine instead of butter. We had seed oils instead of this and so on and so forth." She said, "And yet I've got hypertension, I've got this and I've got that and I've got the other. What did I do wrong?"
Well, so margarine is a starter. Margarine causes a massive inflammation. Well,
I knew you'd be able to help him. So I wrote back straight away. I said, "For starters, everything you've said is completely wrong."
That's right.
I said, if you'd have had butter instead of margarine, if you've had coconut oil and olive oil instead of the seed oils, etc., etc., etc. So I thought it's interesting how, and I mean, I don't know if you've heard, but the latest abomination is a new food pyramid that says Crispies and these high sugar things are better than eating a steak. It's just
mind-blowing.
Absolutely abomination.
Always changing, and this is the thing, you've got to read between the lines when it comes to commercial products. You've got to do, I mean, the latest research, you've got to look at the latest research. I mean, if we go back 50 years ago, the research then is completely different to the research now. And we know from the last 50 years, because we've looked at the blood types, we've looked at the blood results, we've seen what happens. And so now we're a lot smarter, and everybody needs to become their own doctor, really, don't they?
100% agree.
I mean, you've got to learn about your own self first, and the doctor will assist you if there's a problem that you've overlooked. and it's led to it's become an evident problem, then it's up to you as the individual to do your own research about your health and your body and understand what you're putting in and what is the thing that happens. And I tell people, we're a set of we are one big biochemistry. The food that we put in is also biochemistry. When you put it in, it has a chemistry reaction. And you've got to work out if that reaction is compatible to yours. And that's what genetics is all about. Understanding that what you might think is healthy is actually not healthy for you.
And what's healthy for one person may not be for you.
That's right. And that's exactly why we're saying that you can formulate it, you can make it. It's an absolute blessing that we've got people like you who have taken an interest because you care. And that is really the core here. It's because you care. And it was your daughter who brought it to you, and you cared about that. You cared that she wasn't getting the right nutrition. That's how it all started. And this is the whole point, and we educate people to understand that if you think you're eating healthy but your body's showing something different, then you've got to look further. You've got to dig a little deeper. You've got to look for the answers and the research. There is no excuse. We have a walking dictionary library and a walking encyclopedia on the internet. We can find anything, any information. That all the research has already been done, and new research is being done all the time. And we know that even in blood types, we even know that we talk about vegetarians. We have a lot of problem with vegetarians that have an O blood type because their blood DNA requires high levels of vitamin B12. That's found a lot in red meat, and we find that sometimes it can be a problem, and they have to take extra care as vegetarians to be able to get that the amount that they need, where they used to be able to get it in a steak they would only need one a week. But now, if they're a vegetarian, we're having problems getting, they're anemic. They tend to be more anemic. So that's the problem that we're having there. And if they understand that, this is the blood type and that's what it requires, because you are what you eat. And to change that suddenly might be a problem. But if you do it gradually, or if you find another way and monitor your blood to see how your levels are, and having diverse nutrients is the key. Can
I share something with you on that?
Yes, please.
There was an Italian doctor who researched and found that vegetarians and vegans who had something called Klamath blue-green algae, which is a cousin to spirulina, did not suffer a B12 deficiency. Most plant forms of B12 are what they call an analog, and the body can't process them the same way it can out of a steak. So if you go to Klamath blue-green algae.
Yes, this is what we need. Say it again so that people, you'll have to send me the information. I'm going to research this because I didn't know that, Tom. Brilliant.
It's Klamath, Klamath, yes. Blue-green algae. You get it. There's a lake in Oregon called the Klamath Lake, only place where this grows. There's a couple of suppliers there. And you can buy Klamath blue-green algae in tablets or capsules. I used to be able to buy it and put it in my powders, but they stopped me recently and said, no, if it escapes into the streams and whatever, it's all hell breaks loose. So I used to put it in my nutrition powders. I'm not allowed to anymore, but I can pass on the recommendation.
Brilliant.
So that's an example of how there's another thing based on what you just said. Every spirit, mind, body combination is unique. And just because my wife and I live together, we kiss occasionally, so there's a salival exchange, all sorts of things happen.
Yes. Yep,
but we have completely different diets. Her physiology, not just because she's female, but it's very different from mine. So you've got to figure out what your spirit, mind, body combination is best suited to dietary-wise.
Right. Yes.
There's a guy called Keith Scott Mumby. He was a doctor in the UK. And he used to be a dietary advisor. He'd test people and find out what they're allergic to. And he quotes the case in his book, Diet Wise, of an Irish guy who was up before the courts for attempted manslaughter. He got really upset with his stepfather and tried to throttle him or whatever. He was called before the court to test the guy. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. I'm listening.
The poor guy was allergic to potato. Irish, allergic to potato.
That's really harsh. Well, that's
So-
a bit like me with olive oil. I have Greek. And
So the court decreed that as long as he stayed off potato, because they had a video of him eating potato and going
it would
nuts.
just lose it. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So,
right.
and Keith Scott Mumby's got this book called Diet Wise. I've got
behavior. It
problems.
actually does. It does affect food. Affects our behavior. And if you've got
Absolutely.
the wrong food, and
Yep.
what you're saying about mind, body, spirit, which is everything that I'm about. I mean, I use my higher self and I ask, is this good for me? And you can hear the answer coming back clearly. Your knowledge, your higher self has all the answers. It knows if it's good for you or not. You can hear it, and you kind of feel if you're in doubt. Whenever in doubt, do nothing. Do not go there. So yes, I totally agree with you, Tom.
Yes. So that in his book, he talks about how to find out which foods are not good for you, and he gives you a process.
Brilliant.
Now, it means cutting out everything, including eggs and chicken, and just eating very, very simply, and then gradually adding one food. So your testing process, if somebody wants a quick, easy answer, your testing process is going to give them a faster result.
But not everybody can afford that. And we have, as practitioners, we have what we call an elimination process. I think that's
exactly
what we're talking about. And so we eliminate the majority, and then we stay off it for a little while. Then we slowly introduce things one
thing at a time. Yeah.
So that we can see if there's a reaction, and we do that to see how people respond. And people should do this at home, and we always advise people to do that when the budget is low and they can't afford. There's some of these tests. I mean, the most comprehensive allergy test costs a little over $1,000. It's about $1,100. I mean, not everybody can, and that's just one test. Then you've got the consultation fee. Then you've got the other tests and the genetic tests.
3 kids and going back to school.
And God knows what else. So it's a lot. So not everybody can afford to do that, and we understand. So there's ways around it, and when you can put a program together for someone. So yes, I look forward to working with you in the future. As you know, I've relocated, so I'm looking at different ways of. I'm actually looking for people. We're looking at creating a wellness center in the future, and it'll be probably the first one of its kind, which will be mind, body, spirit, holistic approach in every area of health. So there'll be lots and lots of practitioners, but it'll be sort of focused, and we're looking at basically the highest vibration of health we can get, just to assist people, and maybe an education program. There's a lot, and it's been compartmentalized. It's been divided. So we're trying to bring the knowledge all back into one area.
Yes.
So that we can, people can become the best versions of themselves, the best.
Beautiful.
And be their own doctors. And we might have retired doctors speaking about what they learned and their knowledge. And, if you have it all from both sides, and I'm talking about Eastern, Western, medical and natural, and we put it all together, and that's where you're going to get all the answers, not just one part of one area. So we've got sort of the best knowledge. So it's
exciting times.
It is exciting times.
Watch this space, yes.
Watch this space.
Now, can I share something else?
Yes.
There's 2 resources that I would like to share with your viewers.
Please.
Number one's a free one. It's my blog.
Yes.
It's called tomgrimshaw.com/Tom's blog. If you go into there, it's got a search tool. Type in the word protocol. It'll come up with a short list, including a COVID jab detox protocol.
Brilliant.
For anybody who's been forced to get the jab or tricked
or
into
anybody who it doesn't matter what jab, actually, because we see that it's not one diet fits all in genetics. If they're not feeling good after something like that, whatever jab they've had, and they're just not feeling good, they're not firing at all cylinders, you've got something that will help them, which is brilliant, and it's free. And this is absolutely brilliant, Tom.
Thank you. It basically, I looked at all these presentations from several different doctors and professionals. They all to be, to me, a fairly partial solution. So typical me, I put them all together.
Brilliant.
And it's probably too comprehensive for the majority of people to follow from beginning to end. The same gentleman I was telling you about before with the high blood pressure, I
Yes.
referred him to a Dr. Rudolph Bruce vegetable juice that was reputed to have cured about 40,000 people of cancer. It's in my book, which I'll mention in a minute. I gave it to him, checked back on him after a month. I said, how's it going? He said, oh, it's all very good, except the half a potato. I'm not doing that. I said, mate, that's what's for the liver cancer that you've got. So the penny dropped at that particular point in time. I thought, now I know why we need nurses, because sick people can't be trusted to look after themselves.
No, they actually can't, because mentally, the mental fog takes over.
I know.
And
Their attention is just so distracted.
Which is why we've got to put them through a coaching program, because we've got to monitor things very closely, and everything has to be recorded so you can keep it. Because you can't, when you're in that situation,
yep.
You cannot remember to start with.
I know.
And so it's very interesting. And you think you've told them everything, you've given them the information, you put it in writing, you texted it, you've emailed it, you got it in the book, and then you go, did you do that? Oh, no, I didn't do that.
I forgot about that.
So this is why it's very important. But please tell us about your book, and please go.
So Mary said to me one day, she came around to visit, Mary Sentle, who introduced us. Yes. And I said, do you know the body can't absorb vitamin D and vitamin A if you eat them at the same time? You know, your villi, the little things in the small intestine.
That's right. It's actually stuff. Yeah, that's right. All the way through the intestines. Absolutely.
Okay, they have little receptors on for each nutrient, except for vitamin A and vitamin D are absorbed by the same nutrient, the same receptor. And if you've got vitamin
two at the same time, it doesn't work. You've got to have D and K. Yeah, go on.
Okay. So I was telling her this, and I said, and they did a survey of women in rural Nebraska, not even in the burbs. This is out in the country where you would expect girls to get more sunlight.
Yes.
And they gave them 1,000 international units of D3 and 1,500 milligrams of calcium every day for 4 years. I said, guess how much less cancer they had at the end of the 4 years? She said, what? I said, 77% less cancer of all sorts. Absolutely. And I said, how do you get your vitamin D3? By getting out in the sun between 11 o'clock and 3 o'clock. Yes. When did they tell me to stay out of the sun? Between 11 o'clock and 3 o'clock. What am I? A bloody redhead with freckles.
No, but you need, and we also absorb light through the eyes, which is also brilliant for the body. That's also, there's a neurosurgeon who did a lot of research into taking your sunglasses off for some time in the light, so that the light which comes through the eyes actually causes a positive reaction throughout the body, and it keeps weight down. It's absolutely, the more you do that, the more your weight stays down. And I thought, wow, when this man was an absolute brilliant. He was a neurosurgeon. He went through and, I studied him quite, because everybody wants to keep their weight down. So the light is very important. So yes, vitamin D is a very important. It's important for us.
So at the end of this conversation, Mary said, Tom, you got to tell people about this. Yes. I said, Mary, everybody will stand still and listen. I talked to her. She said, no, I mean more people. So I threw it back at her. I said, okay, Mary, you get a group of people together.
And I will talk. Absolutely. And did she?
So she rang me up and she said, I've got 25 people booked for your talk. I thought, oh, I better make some notes.
Oh, my God.
50 hours and 42 pages of notes later, I rattled through it at 100 miles an hour. At the end of 2 hours, somebody said to me, he said, Tom, he said, this isn't a 2-hour talk. He said, this is an 8-hour seminar. I thought, who's going to listen to a software developer for 8 hours on the subject of health and nutrition?
Oh, no, they want it.
So I just kept adding to my notes.
Yeah, people
and are you
want
sitting down?
I'm sitting down.
It's now up to 1,147 pages.
Oh, my goodness.
And it's the best of it's like an encyclopedia of health. It's
the best. I have to read it, Tom, because
it's the best I've accumulated over the last 14 years.
Yeah, well, I will need a refresher. Like I'm always researching. I'll just add this to it. It's daily.
And the thing that's the big
advantage. The book? Is this your book?
It's either a PDF or I physically, on my printer, I print out a copy, and it's 3 volumes.
And you're selling this book on your website, correct?
Exactly.
Excellent.
So the big advantage to your listeners is that it takes 14 years of research and condenses it down into one simple, easy to digest, and it's got lots of little targets that I've set through it. So you read something, it gives you
Well,
something
you've
to
just
do.
qualified for at least 3 PhDs in that book, you know. We should be calling you Dr. Tom Grimshaw.
4. I've even
4.
inserted some chapters on soil
Okay,
now.
well, there you go. So, I mean, this is basically what it is. If you were to choose your PhD, that would at least 3 or 4. So, and so we should be calling you Dr. Grimshaw. And this has been an absolute amazing chat. I love talking to you, Tom, and we should have done this a lot earlier. I didn't think about it. I've only just come onto Facebook in the last 6 months or 8 months or whatever it's been. So I'm new to the world, but I'm catching on fast. And so I'm using all of my presenting skills now online. And of course, COVID pushed that and pushed it upon me and went, okay, well, this is the direction now. So it's been an honor to talk to you and to have you. And I'm going to post.
Pleasure to you.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to post this on Facebook and people can write in the comments. And so it's healthylicious.com.au.
Just remember, healthy without the Y and delicious without the D.
Yes, so yes, health licious, LICIOUS.com.au. And you and I need to be doing some work in the future and maybe doing some live tours around Australia. We'll get to that as well, Tom.
Wow.
Yeah, why not?
And I tell you what, when you post it to Facebook,
yes,
I'll send you the direct link to the URL.
Right.
They can download the vaccine detox protocol.
Absolutely brilliant.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tom. It's been great. Enjoyed it thoroughly. And thank you to all the viewers.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
You too. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.